In 1995, Sony entered the console market with the first PlayStation and never looked back. Disrupting the battle between Nintendo and Sega, the Sony PlayStation would go on to sell 102.4 million units in its lifetime. 25 years later, some of the best games on the platform are fetching high prices. There are signs that it's slowing down, but is this the calm before the storm? Welcome to Retronomics, the series that follows price trends in video games, and today we're taking a look at the Sony PlayStation, the little gray box that changed the gaming landscape for the better. All of my price data comes from PriceCharting.com and eBay sold listings, so it's accurate as of the recording of this video, which is August 4th, 2021. So if you're watching this video in the future and my prices are out of date, well, subscribe for future content so you can be like my viewers and never miss an upload. The PlayStation is home to a lot of great games, some that defined a generation and some that are considered to be the best of all time. And as such, some of the games in the PlayStation library are sought after, and like almost every system in the past year, have seen an incredible increase in price. A lot had to do with the PlayStation 3 store potentially shutting down, effectively locking these harder to find games on the PlayStation, but you also have to recognize the fact that the PlayStation is 26 years old, and we are at that point where people are looking to relive their childhoods and snatch up some of the rarer games on the platform before they get too expensive. The largest increase in value from last year was a game called Tail Concerto, which increased from $226 complete last July to $466 today, a change of $240. Luckily, not every game saw an increase of over $100, but a lot of games saw their overall original value jump significantly. As of the recording of this video, 95 games are above $100. Compare that to last year where only 52 games were over $100. And a lot of games that were reasonably affordable last year have increased in value by at least 40%. 188 games in fact rose 40% in value since July of 2020. Now let's forecast some game values. I asked you on my YouTube community tab which games I should forecast, and I took some of my own as well. So if you missed out on that question, don't worry, I'll make a follow-up video in 2 months and ask for some more suggestions. So let's take a look at 20 PlayStation games to see if the prices will go up, down, or stay the same. Einhander, a fantastic exclusive PlayStation game. It's a shoot 'em up and it's made by Square, so it's going to have a price tag to match. However, the price has peaked in April and has been falling ever since, and there are a couple of copies being sold for way less than what Price Charting has it listed for. So it is possible that we can see a price drop to just above pre-pandemic levels, so I would wait for a deal on this one. Final Fantasy VII is still exclusive physically to the PlayStation, but available in a lot of different places digitally, so I don't think that the value of this game is going to take off or drop anytime soon. Funny enough, this game was $130 10 years ago and flirted with $100 for years before finally settling down to a reasonable level. It has risen in the past year, but I think that this is a game that you should probably buy now if you want a great game for the system. Tactics Ogre is an RPG on the PlayStation published by Atlus, and if you've been a long-time subscriber, the high price of this game shouldn't be too much of a surprise to you. This is one of those games that I think will retain its value for quite some time. This version of the game is exclusive to the PlayStation, and I can't seem to track it down on the PlayStation Store. There are some breakthrough sales that pop up from time to time, but they're few and far between, so this is one game that I would probably buy now rather than later, since the older Atlus games tend to hold their value over time. Parasite Eve is Square's first M-rated game, and it's also an RPG with survival horror elements, but it isn't as popular of a series as Square's other RPGs. As such, the first entry of the series is coming down a bit, not as sharp as Einhander, but nonetheless coming down. It is a great game which also had a greatest hits version, so I'm sure that this game will stay relatively affordable for the foreseeable future. The sequel is also showing a steep decline in value as well, so if you are interested in Square's other projects, Parasite Eve is a series that I would probably pick up now and not feel bad about spending the money. Tomba has such a cult following. It is a very colorful platformer, and it's a game that has almost always fetched a high dollar value over the years. It's available on the PlayStation 3 and PSP digital store, but since there are no plans to revitalize the series or port it to other platforms, there is only one way to enjoy this game physically, and it's on the PlayStation, and you're going to have to shell out a lot for it. It does seem to rise a bit and then fall back down slightly, but I think where it's at now is where it's going to stay for the foreseeable future. Maybe play it digitally on the PlayStation 3 before deciding if you want to plunk down some serious coin for our pink-haired caveman. Diablo is a port of the super popular PC title. The PlayStation version was released in 1998 and was well received at launch, but since it is close to the end of the PlayStation era, it didn't really sell as well as its PC counterpart. It is a good game and it's held its value since price charting started tracking the price. This past April the price peaked and now it's very volatile. With the drama surrounding Activision Blizzard, it will be interesting to see if the price continues to increase as it is on its way back up this month, or if the price will plummet. I don't think the price will plummet, but it is possible to see a drop in price over the next couple of months, so I would keep an eye out for a well-priced copy. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is considered the best Castlevania and the game that coined the phrase Metroidvania. While available digitally, there are a lot of people who have insisted that those ports aren't as accurate as the PlayStation version. It's an iconic game for the PlayStation and the price reflects that. This does have a greatest hits version, so the price of the game is relatively kept in check, at least until the rush to scoop up physical titles drove the price way up. This game will probably settle back down to around $100 and then hold for the foreseeable future because it is still the only physical version out there, at least in the United States. Silent Hill is another classic PlayStation game that has always been relatively inexpensive but maintained its value for years until the PlayStation Store was announced to be shut down, which drove up the price of the only way to play this game physically. Since then, the price of this game has been on a steady downturn, but given recent sold listings, I don't think that we'll see it for less than $100 anytime soon. It's not like this game is rare by any means, but iconic games tend to get snatched up first and remain in people's collection the longest, so I would probably buy now before the next jump since there are rumors of a new entry in the series on its way. Xenogears is the first game in a long series of games, with the latest being Xenoblade Chronicles. This game has only just commanded a high dollar amount like other games on this list in this recent year. The price is going back down, but I don't really see that it's going to drop too significantly. Like most games on this list, the only way to play this game physically is on the PlayStation, and when you combine that with the fact that this is a solid RPG from Squaresoft, it's going to maintain its value. But I would keep an eye out for a price you're comfortable with and snatch it up sooner rather than later. Suikoden 2 is an RPG on the PlayStation. What else is new? But this is one that's made by Konami, and Suikoden 2 has always been somewhat a hard to find and expensive game, but it exploded in value this past year, peaking at just under $400. I don't think that we'll see the price correct anytime soon. Typically, games that were valued high prior to the pandemic will settle back down, but the price will be considerably higher than what it was before the pandemic and stay there. The pre-pandemic price was $165, so I expect that we probably won't see a copy sold for less than $200 anytime soon. Clona is not an RPG, but it is an action platformer, which was also one of PlayStation's strong suits. The game is a cult classic, and the recent poll sent out by Bandai Namco suggests that there is a remaster or re-release of some sort coming out, and that sparked interest in the series' backlog. The game is also somewhat rare, so when the mad dash happened to snatch up physical titles, Clona was one game to see its value skyrocket, almost doubling in a month's time. The game has settled in value a bit, but it is leveling out instead of dropping like the rest of the games on this list. If you're not willing to spend that much money, it is still available on the PlayStation 3 store for download. RType Delta is the first 3D entry of the popular shoot 'em up series. This game is just starting to peak, but I don't think that it's going to see a drop in value anytime soon. Shoot 'em ups hold their value incredibly well, and I don't think that RType Delta is going to be the exception. This game was expensive before the pandemic, so I do think that it'll probably come down, but only to around $200. And I don't see a lot of copies sell for less than that, so if you have deep pockets and love shoot 'em ups, snag it when you see a deal because it'll be few and far between. Next up is Alundra, and I can't believe that I made it this far into the video without mentioning a working designs title. Alundra is one of my favorite games of all time, and if you haven't played it and you enjoy Zelda Link to the Past, then you'll absolutely love Alundra. But it isn't the only reason why this game has such a high price tag. That working design label ensures that this game will hold its value for the foreseeable future. However, this game isn't as expensive as the other working design titles, so you might see it drop back down to under $100. But even if it doesn't, this is one game that if I didn't already own, I'd pay the price tag for the game. It's just that good. Intelligent Cube is a great puzzle game that has had its ups and downs in value throughout the years. One of those quirky games made during a time where developers actually took risks, and this game paid off. It's not particularly a rare game, but it is a staple of the early PlayStation era, so I feel that it'll keep its value going forward. I do think that you can stand to wait a bit for the price to drop down to something a bit more acceptable, but I don't expect it to drop below $50 consistently anytime soon. Metal Gear Solid is a great game that's been pretty affordable for a long time. I don't think that it'll jump in value significantly anytime soon. It might see a slight bump if there's a new entry into the series, but not by much. If you haven't gotten this game already, I suggest picking it up now. Just don't freak out too much when Psycho Mantis tries to read your mind. Crash Bandicoot dances between $20 and $50, but with the remastered trilogy made available physically on modern platforms, I don't think that we'll see it jump significantly in value anytime soon. But this game is a PlayStation staple that helps Sony break into the console war race. This is a historical game and it's a must-have on the PlayStation, and you won't feel bad if you buy it now because the price doesn't look to be swinging too much. Revelations Persona is the first game in the famous Persona series, so it's going to fetch a high dollar amount. It's been over $200 before the pandemic, and it's probably going to remain around $400 for the foreseeable future, considering that it is part of a popular series and it is published by Atlus, the publisher notorious for low print runs. I don't think that there are any plans to re-release this game anytime soon, and it doesn't appear to be on the digital storefront, so I guess if you got into the Persona series late and want to play the first game in the series, you're going to have to dig deep in your wallet. Shadow Tower is a game that has been rising steadily in value year over year, so if you were thinking about buying this game, you should buy it now. It's made by From Software and it's a pretty unique title. The cover looks like it would be a horror game, but the description of the game doesn't mention anything that would suggest that it is. It is a game that is available on the PlayStation Network, so if you want to play it digitally before plunking down the cash for a physical version, you can still do that, for now. Echo Knight is a late PlayStation title with an obscure cover art, and it's been hovering around for $50 for the longest time, but now it's skyrocketing in value. I'll admit that I didn't really know too much about this game, and it does appear to have some link to Shadow Tower, and that could be the reason why this game is shooting up in value recently. Game collecting is kind of weird. You see one game shoot off and then a lot of people start to look for related games, and the value tends to be affected as well. This game will probably continue to rise in value just like Shadow Tower. The Misadventures of Tronbon is part of the Mega Man Legends series. It's a late life cycle game as well, and it's one of those games that has been sought after by collectors for a very long time. It's the most expensive PlayStation game, and it's held that title for a very long time. It's starting to come back down in value, but it is going to be difficult to find this game for any less than $400 for the foreseeable future. Luckily, it is available on the PlayStation Network, so you can play it to see what the fuss is all about, but if you are a physical collector who doesn't have this game yet, it's probably would be good to buy this game now rather than later, because this might be the very first PlayStation game that hits $1,000 in the next couple of years, assuming that Capcom continues to ignore the Mega Man Legends series. So there you go, 20 PlayStation games forecasted for August 2021. Prices are starting to come down for a lot of these games, but time will tell if they will drop below pre-pandemic levels. I don't really think that we're going to see that happen for a while. These games are locked physically on the platform, and with a gigantic library of great games, I do think that the value of these games will persist, since there is now a clear and present danger of the digital versions being unavailable for the rest of time. Sony currently has no plans to bring their back catalog to the PlayStation 5, and while certain statements like no one wants to play old games has been walked back, the trust that Sony will do the right thing has pretty much evaporated. But let me know what you think about the prices of these games. Do you think that we'll see a significant drop in value in the near future? Let me know in those comments below. And also, if you know of any PlayStation games that you want me to forecast, or if there's a specific console that you want me to cover, let me know in those comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with those who might find it interesting. It's the best way to support the channel, and it's free to do so. If you're new here and you like my videos, consider subscribing for future content. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at snicktendo. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Super Nicktendo, and I'll see you next time.